Well, we had a historic event because the Bitcoin ETFs, 11 of them, were just approved by the SEC. And I want to get into what it means, where they could be traded, where they can't be traded, but most importantly, what does this mean for the value of Bitcoin? Where's it going? And what are some corollaries in the past that we could use to compare about like where this can actually go? So here's what you need to know. Big party. Big party. This is basically what happened yesterday when the SEC's approval came through. Massive party in the world of crypto. Bitcoin rises, tops 47,000 after SEC greenlights launch of US Bitcoin ETFs. We got the approval. As I'm filming this right now, Bitcoin is encroaching on 48,000, which means that Bitcoin itself has a market cap now of almost back to $1 trillion, 935 billion, and overall crypto is back to 1.8 trillion. And it's all because of spot ETFs. So think about the older generation, which don't forget, boomers right now control about 76% of all of the investments in the market. All of that money now, if they so choose, has access to the world of specifically Bitcoin. Not all of crypto right now, specifically Bitcoin. Spot ETFs offer an easier and cheaper way to invest in Bitcoin. The SEC yesterday, Wednesday, approved creation of Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, allowing big asset managers such as BlackRock and Fidelity to jump into the market. Investors will pay lower fees to acquire holdings in Bitcoin ETFs than they would if buying Bitcoin directly through traditional crypto platforms. So BlackRock's a big name, but none of this would have been possible without Grayscale. Grayscale is the company who basically grabbed the SEC and Gary Gensler and drug this over the line. So we would not be here without Grayscale. Grayscale claims bragging rights for the first spot Bitcoin ETF to begin trading. Grayscale's conversion of its 27 billion Bitcoin trust into an ETF was finally approved by the SEC yesterday, Wednesday. Grayscale, the manager of GBTC, is claiming bragging rights for being the first of the newly approved crop of spot Bitcoin exchange-traded funds to begin trading. I'm happy to confirm that GBTC started in pre-market trading at 4 a.m. ET this morning. Grayscale's conversion of its 27 billion Bitcoin trust into an ETF was finally approved by the SEC yesterday, one of the many applicants approved by the U.S. markets regulator for the first time, marking a historic milestone in the cryptocurrency industry. And if you're curious about where this could all be trading, here's the group of the 11. So right now, BlackRock and Grayscale are kind of the two that are getting the most buzz, the most excitement. Fidelity's huge just because there's so many retirement accounts with them. And then ARK is also pretty big just because Cathie Wood is actually a massive supporter of not only disruptive tech, but specifically Bitcoin. She just came out publicly stating in a recent interview that a quarter of her own wealth is actually in Bitcoin. And then Bitwise is getting a little bit of a buzz too, because they actually have the cheapest fee in terms of the ETF management. But anyway, here are the 11 companies and here are the 11 associated ETFs for a spot Bitcoin ETF. What has the highest correlation to this particular circumstance is gold. At one point, gold was super volatile. Everyone liked it. Store of value, a way to fight inflation. And at one point, there was enough demand and finally it got regulatory clarity to also have spot gold ETFs. So I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but I think there's some fair correlations. Now, the TLDR on this part is gold. Before the spot ETF and after it, it went from a $2 trillion asset class all the way up to 16. It 8x'd its market cap. Why are Bitcoin ETFs such a big deal? Gold provides a $100 billion answer. Gold ETFs revolutionized the gold market and spurred a giant rally. Can Bitcoin ETFs do the same? No one really knows, but I think the fair assumption is yes. Gold ETFs transformed the gold market 2 decades ago, sparking a huge rally in gold's price, and some experts think the Bitcoin ETFs could do the same thing. Standard Chartered sees Bitcoin price doubling to 100,000 this year. This one is going to go gangbusters, and this is referring to gold with the gold spot ETFs. When speaking about gold ETFs, it opens up a new asset class to investors. He was right. Over 100 billion is now stashed in gold ETFs that trade in the US, the world's largest capital market. They have made investing in the precious metal as simple as clicking the buy button in a plain vanilla brokerage account, no vaults or armed guards needed. So basically, when you make it easier, there's most likely going to be more money flowing in, and that's really what we're seeing going to happen in real time today with Bitcoin. Gold soared after gold ETFs were introduced 2 decades ago. Standard Chartered, the global bank, Bank views this as a relevant history for Bitcoin ETFs. Gold's price were more than quadrupled in the 7 years following the 2004 introduction to the US. We expect Bitcoin to enjoy price gains of a similar magnitude as a result of US spot ETF approval, but we see these gains materializing over a shorter 1 to 2 year period. Given our view that the BTC ETF market will develop more quickly, the firm sees the price of Bitcoin rising to 100,000 by the end of this year, 2024, folks. And then right here, you can see exactly what happened with the value of gold. So it was approved in 2004. This was the average value of gold, and then it just skyrocketed in the preceding year. So I'm not really actively trading this. I don't really think many people should be actively trading. It's more of like, okay, where's the big vision? Where does Bitcoin fit into the global monetary system? And if you have a positive, bullish, long-term view, that means you're just kind of white knuckling it, you're hodling it. But if this is a reasonable corollary, and I believe that gold is, comparing to what's going on with Bitcoin right now, I think the next couple of years are going to be very, very exciting. So for quite a while, we just like weren't getting this, and it had to do with the SEC not wanting to approve. And I found some interesting information. It turns out Gary Gensler, and he's a person I'm not a fan of, he was actually the deciding vote that got this approved. So first of all, even though he was the deciding vote that got us the approval, he's still salty as could be. I mean, check this out. Though we're merit neutral, I note that the underlying assets in the metal ETPs have consumer and industrial use. This is talking about gold. While in contrast, Bitcoin is primarily a speculative, volatile asset that also used for illicit activity, including ransomware, money laundering, sanction evasion, and terrorist financing. So the salt level is maxed out. But even with the salt level being maxed out, Gensler voted to approve Bitcoin ETFs despite public criticism. Right here, there was 5 people who voted. Gensler said yes, approved. He was the deciding vote. Pierce, who's been a long-time crypto advocate, approved it. And then we had another approval as well. But Crenshaw and Lizarraga, I don't know how to pronounce it, said no. How wild is that? Unsurprisingly, the 2 Republican commissioners voted to approve the ETF. Also, unsurprisingly, the 2 Democrat commissioners voted to deny American investors the opportunity to access the asset that has been created more millionaires than any other in history. I don't understand why, because generally the Democrats like to take on the branding image of, hey, we're fighting the big Wall Street criminals, we're on your side, we're helping the little guy out. That's like the branding that Democrats like to take on. But yet in this scenario, it was the 2 Republicans, with Gensler being the deciding vote, that said, yeah, no, people should have access to Bitcoin, which fairly enough has made more billionaires than any other asset class in recent history. But then the 2 Democrats said no. And then I start to think about what's going on with Elizabeth Warren, who, whatever reason, absolutely hates crypto and thinks that every illicit thing in the world, every nefarious, immoral thing in the world is only because of crypto. That's seemingly how she acts. She's completely against it. But anyway, these are the 2 people who are saying, no, you shouldn't have access to crypto. You shouldn't be able to do what you want with your money. Absolutely insane. I just found that a bit surprising, so I wanted to share it with you. But most importantly, I wanted to just celebrate with all the other crypto enthusiasts. Obviously, it's been high volatility. There's been fun upsides. There's been pretty sad downsides, but it looks like we are now officially back on that upward trajectory.
Last but not least, I want to thank me.
All crypto holders right now.
I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for doing all this hard work. I want to thank me for having no days off. I want to thank me for never quitting. I want to thank me for always being a giver and trying to give more than I receive. I want to thank me for trying to do more right than wrong. I want to thank me for just being me at all times. Snoop Dogg, you a bad...
That's literally all crypto holders as of this morning. And honestly, you should be thanking yourself, because you have the balls to put your money on the table and it paid off in your favor. So congrats to everyone who held through all the craziness.